I was not programmed to start working at 9, finish at 5, because I was always not that person. Doesn't matter religion, doesn't matter color, doesn't matter the place, but in the end, all of us came from the same place and goes to the same place. I run a company in 72 countries, worldwide company. A lot of time I was losing and I lost 74 times. I was looking and tell to myself in the middle, what are you doing, bro? It's like, why me? Why am happening this to me? For different results, you need to have different attitudes. Innovation is not the creation of a new rule. It's in fact matching things that exist and put them together in a way that they never exist. This is innovation. To me, the respect for the others is I never want to cross the line that I don't want that the others cross to my side. 99% of the decision is a decision of who is behind the business. Not what business, but who is behind. With work, everything is possible.
I am your host Gaurav Garg and we welcome all our viewers to our show Amazing Mentor. Today with us is Mr. Carlos. He is currently President, Founder, Member and CEO of Ethos Asset Management Inc. USA. He has a degree in economics, master degree in 3 major areas: finance, banking, accounting and international taxation. In addition to 4 postgraduate degrees in the same field, Carlos is an expert in financial instruments. As a reflection of his academic and professional excellence, he received the Ernst Young Award, Best Economist 2016, Banco de Portugal Award 2015, several academic honors 2014, 2013 and 2012, and several merit scholarships during his academic studies. It's a pleasure to welcome Mr. Carlos to our show Amazing Mentor. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, first of all, for the invitation for this show and try to give a little overview about what was this journey that is being, of course, a challenge and amazing for myself. It's, of course, a great pleasure to be here to share with all of you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, sir. Tell us about your childhood and any particular memory that you would like to share on our show.
All of us, right? We are a product of what we were when we were child, right? And of course, that is the basis of that makes each of us what you are. I born in a medium class family, a family that my father came from the automobile sector, he's a businessman. My mother was a CPA. And in fact, I can tell that this was very important on my growth, the way that I am what I am today. I mean, first of all, I started to study in a college, right, in a private school until the 4th degree. After that, I came to the public school because my father was with the idea that this could be better to me. It was an important moment, until 16, when I was living with them until that age, always we travel a couple of times per year around the world, not only summer vacations, but mainly cultural vacations. That was really important to who I am today. These allow me to have a completely cultural tolerance, right, in terms of understanding the others, the cultures, and in fact, all the world are similar, right? And doesn't matter religion, doesn't matter color, doesn't matter the place, but in the end, all of us came from the same place and goes to the same place. And this was really important on my knowledge on who I am today. At the same time, I have a massive, lucky, because they always try to allow me to have full knowledge. Not only I did a conservatory in music, I have a 7th degree, I play football, in swimming, tennis, all of that on a competitive level, and this allowed me to have a very eclectic education. And today, allow me to make everything that I need in my life and feel comfortable and never outside of my comfort level. And this was, of course, the responsibility of that. My role models was always both of them. My mother, in a way of how she faced the bad things in the life, that all of the problems we have, and in the next day when she wake up, everything was always well, right? And the way that she has that capacity to regenerate energy was always to me admiration. On the side of the work, my father for hard work away and transparency and ethics in work was always very important to, even with the distance that of course I have today for professional reasons and because the life of course made it to us, but it's until today continue even to be a role model of my daily basis activity. When I wake up and I try to make my business rule, it's always that.
So, what about your educational background, schooling, and higher education?
I passed from science, but after when I entered university, I choose economics, and the reason was I want to go for management. But one more time, the decision was the economics could give me a more overview view of how works the economy, and this, of course, will be basilar on the management side on the future. And this was why I chose economics. Later on, the masters in the three different areas: accounting for banking, international taxation, and finance, because I was trying to have the maximum knowledge, even though because I was always in that moment clear about that I want to create my business. And I have included I was doing that at the same time. The major thing when you are self-employed and you are doing that is the real need that you have of information and knowledge. To don't feel that you are one path back from the market. You need to feel always that you are one step ahead. And it's because of that, that I try to, as much as possible, fulfill the math, science, knowledge, and subjects on my background. And this was why after I did the postgraduations on these fields, and this was the reason of my decision.
So, what was your dream profession as a child?
Like all the childs, I love sport in that time and football and soccer. This was always, of course, in the beginning, when with 14 I have a massive injury. And my football dream was finished immediately. And was when I start, of course, to look with more conscience what I want, And was the moment, and one more time returning to my point, that in the beginning was follow the lead of my father, but immediately after when on university, this switch for what I have today. And in fact, was a little these three major dreams, and one is exactly what I do today.
So, what about your college life? Any particular college memory that you would like to share?
I have multiple of them. Sometimes it's difficult to give relevance to one in terms of moments that you face it, right? I think in terms of the first year of university was probably one of the most relevant on what I am today, because I probably faced the major transformation of my life. And these I can even specify the moment, because was my first award, was the academic award, right, in the end of the first year, to be the best student of the year of the university. And I remember, to me, probably this is one of the most relevant awards, probably the less relevant, but the most relevant to myself, because when I received it, it was materializing exactly that auto-confidence in myself of you can make it by yourself. You don't need to follow nobody or to have someone backing you, because you can do it alone, And this was really important to give me the trigger to tell I can do it.
So, what about your hobbies and interests?
I'm a pretty diversified person in terms of life. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time for all of them, because the biggest thing that I like is work. but anyway, I like sports. I was always a fan of football, soccer, right? I like tennis too, but mainly football. In terms of, I love travel, and when I travel, one of the things that I like is know the cultural story of each nation and where they came, because I believe that the path qualify of a lot of what you are today in the society are today, and knowing that to me is very important, even for business purposes. And because of that, I try to always know. I like music, it's a passion that I have, and I like to read too, and read is other of my favorite hobbies.
So, was there any idol person you looked to when you were a child?
I was never a person to look to outside on the television or to magazines and tell, oh, how I like this person. Of course, you have the football references, the cinema reference, but this was never great motive to me. To me, clearly, my reference is my father and my mother. These are my two role models, clearly.
So, where did you started your career journey from?
My first job, was I was working on the Central Bank of Portugal, and I was being professor at the same time. I was invited to professor in Lisbon School of Economics and Management, and at the same time working there. It was a very short period of time on the bank, because after 3 months, I decided to quit and go out, because I could not identify with the type of work. Not that it's bad, but it was different from what I like to drive my life. And after 3 months, I continued with the university, but I created the first company, in fact, during these 3 months. And it was a period of very intense work, because I was being professor, I was doing masters, I was creating the company and working there. Something needs to be closed. And that time was, of course, the bank, but it was good. It was good even for understanding because today I work in a corporation, right? Of course, it's my corporation that I drive it, but it's a corporation. But it's important to pass these 3 months to me on a structure to understand how works this reality, right? How it is work inside of hierarchy structure with rules, with procedures. And of course, I take very interesting knowledge and some information that I save for today that of course is important on my daily basis. Was 3 important months even to what I do today.
So, what all challenges did you face in your first job, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Central Bank is a public institution, right? In the end of the day, the university too. And when you work for the public sector, you have a couple of different problems that you have on your private on the private sector. Of course, that I don't like to identify great challenges because I think there are such realities, not problems, But you need to, of course, to respect that. Okay, you have times to do the things that are different from what you can do on the private sector that you rule by yourself. And I think to me this was always a major difference. That is, I always like to understand, okay, how the institution survive. How can I contribute for the dollar that we have of turnover? And when you are inserting a structure like that, it's difficult, right? And I think that this was the first thing that made me don't feel fulfilled. On the other side of the coin, when I start a business, in that case, we can talk about challenge because our real challenge, my first institution and company, and even today, sometimes I face it. Of course, being entrepreneur with 18 years old is not easy, right? Because who will give you value, even that you have a great idea, great innovation, you are too young, and all the market look to you with that discrimination of the age, and correctly, right? Because you don't have the experience. On the top of that, the worst part is you have sectors that are facing massive transformations. I mean, technology sector. I mean, all of us remember to don't have a phone. Now we talk about smartphones. But I mean, the television without colors, after with colors, even before no television, and all of these things. But the financial sector was a sector that until today is being run in the same way. Nothing changes. Doesn't have a transformation. And I mean, being innovative, a young innovator in a sector so conservative like the financial, it was really difficult to convince, of course, the parts that what I had was right and could change the world in the way that I was telling it. This was probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced, the capacity to implement that innovation.
So, what aspect of your job do you like the most?
I love every part of them, and I learned to admire every part of it. I remember to me in the beginning, exactly like I was telling you, one of the things that was most difficult to me was generate the revenue, right? And generate the profit of the institution. And when I was trying that, right, and to see that, I was always trying to see, what I'm doing wrong. I mean, I'm doing everything correct. This is what I need to do, I'm sure. But why it doesn't result? And of course, when you start to understand that this is part of the business, lose is part of the process. You can never make right before make wrong. First, you need to fail, and the understanding that you need to fail first, and the step that failure was critical and was the product to me. And today, even when I fail and when I have problems, I have pleasure on that. And that pleasure comes exactly for that understanding that I start to face my problems like a benefit because it means that I will not do them in the future. This was a game changer to me. This started to give me pleasure in every second of my work because this allows me to, even when I have a problem, I can see the beauty of the problem. And of course, one thing that I love is, of course, like I was telling you, we are a company in 72 countries. We work with multiple nationalities, right? And when I'm working with these nationalities, I really like that to understand the differences and how you need to be different to have acceptance in that market and adjust to that market. This is one of the amazing things, have the opportunity, have this lucky to be exposed to that knowledge, to that experience, to that people that, of course, at the same time, they make you grow. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy to do, And at the same time, the differences that you see, because, the financial market in our sector is always changing, not only with laws and cross-border, but even the technology. Every day is a challenge. Every day it's a new thing. And when you are penetrating new markets, I love when we expand to a new market and I go and I'm the first in the factory doing it, because this gives me a full happiness inside of me to have the experience to see countries that even in 5 years they change internally too. And that capacity that you need to adjust not only on the technology side, but to the society changes. And this is one of the things that I really enjoy.
If you get hold of time machine, which phase of your life would you like to roll back?
Sometimes, of course, that you could come back in the past and tell, I would like to do this differently, or I would like to pass for this experience one more time. But, to tell in a very open and transparent way, and it's not a cliche, I would never like to go back and change something. It's probably a little because I never lose a lot of time thinking on that. But I think that, of course, that I did bad decisions in the past. I have decisions that I regret, that I tell me, if I didn't make it this way, it could be different. It's true. But today, like I told you, I remember when I lost everything, after I started to win and after I lost, in that moment, I remember a lot of time I was losing and I lost 74 times. I was looking and tell to myself in the middle, what are you doing, bro? It's like, why me? Why am happening this to me? And later, I understood that I was wrong. I was putting the wrong question. I was having the problems because I could never made what I made today if I didn't have the problems. In that case, that problems was critical in what I am today. And in that case, I cannot tell you that I would like to go back and change them, because this means change what I am today. In that reality, I don't like to tell this in the cliche, but it's the truth. I like to go back and change it, because in the end, this is what I am today.
So what was the most challenging phase of your life?
It was probably that moment when I was losing everything, because I was losing it. And in some point, I'm a person that I try to be scientific in all the answers, right? Why I'm losing, what I'm doing wrong. And of course, I was doing things wrong, right? But in some moments, it's not action. It's not because you don't work enough, or it's not because you don't sacrifice enough, or because you don't dedicate enough. Sometimes you lose even making it. Understanding that even doing everything by the book, even making the things properly, doesn't mean that will happen correctly. Sometimes you cannot control it. Sometimes you cannot guarantee the sources of that. And it's because of that incapacity to guarantee the sources, right, that I was not having capacity to link it between my right behavior and that sources. And this is what I tell was one of the most challenging moments, that was try to understand how could I face it and pass it and achieve the sources. I have a couple of very bad moments during that period, of losses in business. I remember a very bad situation. I was in London at the time, and I was going to a meeting, from another meeting that went very bad, and I lost more money. And I was on the subway, right? And I went in the subway, and I was on the restaurant. I looked to the mirror, felt myself in that moment. And I think that was a moment of the click that the things changed in my mind. Because I looked at that mirror, and I was depressed, disastrous, down. And I remember to look and tell that the person that was in that mirror was the same that was winning before. The person that was losing was the same values, the same character, the same clothes. Because, the time was so short that I didn't stay without that. In that case, if I have the same clothes, if I have the same character, if I have the same behavior, the same ethics, I'm the same person. The only thing that is being different, it's the returns. But the returns in that case are like the waves. They come, they go, and they return. But if I accept it like a reality, the abundance can come. It's funny because when I accept that I was the same person, I didn't realize, but in fact the things changed. And this was the game changer, that the things start to flow close to you after that. This can look quite strange and like creepy, but it's true. I can tell you that I could be happy even in that moment. And I remember, even losing, I was being happy. And I think that this was a game changer, and was probably the most challenging capacity to understand. that the losing moments are critical. And without them, I cannot achieve the success.
So what was that one thing which struck your mind when you were about to lose everything?
To tell the truth, in some moments, it's some internal, probably crazy behavior that is continue walking. I was always in this way. If I lose, I continue walking, never stop. I was sure that if I don't walk, for sure that I don't change it. And at the same time, the understanding that for different results, you need to have different attitudes. Sometimes it's not the work mode, but it's the way that you work, the positiveness, the positive way to look to the things. And this was the point, I think that trigger that allowed me to understand, and was not probably was I was so down in that moment, that probably when I looked at the mirror, don't ask me why, but I could see it. I think, probably because I lost so many times, that the losing feeling start to be acceptable and logical. Even because I remember to tell, I'm not the unique that lost. And I want to look outside, I saw a lot of people lost too, and they recover. In that case, I'm not different. I'm only passing for the same that others just passed. And this was important to me. This gave me some intellectual comfort. And I think that was probably the base of all of this mental change.
So when did it strike your mind to start your entrepreneur journey and you became a founder of Ethos Asset Management?
It is more or less when I told on this end of this first year of university, I started on the creation of the first institution. Of course, totally different from where you are today, right? But when I created it was in that moment that I realized that I didn't want, what I wanted in that moment was look to this international market and financial market where we are today, and also concentrated in this national business that I was focusing and believing that was my future, And when I created the first company in the end of the first year of university, and of course with a totally different scope, this allowed me clearly to understand what I want was different, and was the beginning to that I understood that I liked this idea of an entrepreneur. Of course, that later, when I finished the bachelor and I entered on the central bank, in that moment, and I was teaching too at the same time, this was relevant to me because all of these two experiences allow me to see that I was right when I started the company, and this was what I want. I was not programmed to start working at 9, finish at 5, because I was always not that person. Not that this is something bad. This is important. You need that on the economy, but this was not me. I like to tell an animal that needs to be always making something and feeling that I'm contributing for something. And I need to know what and feel what. And I think that this was in this end of the first year of university, plus when I have this first experience with the central bank, that I really feel these two mottos to go for the self-entrepreneur.
So what major differences, according to you, are in a self-employed and an employed person?
This is a complex question, even to be fair, right? Because every structure have them, right? In the end of the day, I'm an employee of my self-institution, right? But in the end of the day, I think that is, first of all, is acceptance of risk. When you have your own business, you need to have this conscientization that I was telling you of loss. You need to accept that losing is a possibility. It's a reality of existing. And if you don't have it, you cannot survive. Because when you lost on the first time, you give up. And this was what was making a lot of times, I remember to think about do it or not do it, make it or not make it. Because I was always thinking about, and if I have in the end of the month a fixed salary, because this is the major difference. When you work for a structure, right, you don't normally feel directly your contribution per dollar of turnover, even when you have these new incentive systems. But the truth is, you think, okay, in the end of the month, I have my money, and I don't feel how was difficult to make that money. And when you are self-employed, you create on you that reality that, if you don't wake up, if you don't work, you don't make money. And that is a major difference, the difference between a fixed guaranteed salary versus you depend on you to make it, And in the beginning, this is difficult. But, in my case, I learned to live with that. And I learned to love to live with that. And I don't know living other way. And to tell the truth, it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to make it. And I think that, it's something that doesn't burden you, because people know, but this needs to burden you. I don't think so. I think that you can educate yourself to be capable to see the things in this way. And I think that is the most reality. Other is, of course, the discipline that it's necessary, the hard work, the resilience, all of that properties and characteristics you need to have it to be an entrepreneur. Because if you don't have it, you don't survive. To be a top employee, it's very important to have this view of entrepreneur. Because in my personal opinion, if you don't have the capacity to feel this, you cannot deliver yourself until the limit. And you will always work 40%, 50% of what you can deliver. And to me, this is probably one of the most important things, that capacity to give to each person that work with me the same feeling that I can put in myself of being part of an institution that is mine, and this, of course, is related with all of this recognition of these items.
So how has been your journey from intern Banco de Portugal to president, founder, member and CEO, Ethos Asset Management?
It was a so fast curve that I remember the first day, the clothes that I have when I entered in the first day in the bank. I remember what I eat in this lunch. I remember what I dinner, and I remember even some of the days and challenge and constraints that I have on my daily basis there. Of course, that at the same time, was so full my life in terms of activity and professional challenge until today that is even difficult summarizing, because sometimes I look and tell, looks that was 60 years on that, and when it was not. But a lot of people tell when they work close to me, they describe it, work with me is like drive a Formula One every day, because we pass every day 300 kilometers per hour, right? And I think, this was this journey, right, of since the first day in the bank, passing by the university like professor, trying to always match that until today, was that challenge, was of course full of challenges and understanding the difference between what I desired to be and what I am, and at the same time what I was ready to be, and that capacity to go and to follow on the road alone on the market. But clearly was an incredible journey. I can tell it was an incredible journey that it's amazing when I look back and I tell when I entered in that day, and I like to tell that I was a white page, right? And now I could draft a castle on that page, and this is pretty amazing, and it's probably one of the things that make me feel fulfilled every day.
So does out of the box idea appeal to you? And if yes, what are those ideas or projects you have financed till date?
When I was studying, and you know very well, the first time on the story that someone talked about innovation was with Schumpeter, right? Schumpeter was the person that talked the first time about innovation. And a lot of people talk about, how can you innovate, right? People tell, I sit in a chair and I say, let me think and I will innovate, right? Think about options and I will create something. But innovation is not that, and the definition of innovation for Schumpeter is perfect, because when he defined it, he told that innovation is not the creation of a new world, it's in fact matching things that exist and put them together in a way that they never exist. This is innovation. Learn the bearer of knowledge, move 1 million to this is innovation. It's funny because I always, when I was a kid, I was bad on the creation side, on drafting and on the innovation. I always thought I'm not an innovative person. And the incredible thing is I create a system, and it is a financial system that is the innovation of the financial market. But in the end, why is the innovation? The innovation at Ethos was touching in 3 points that I didn't create. Financial trading always exists. Financial guarantees and banking lines of credit always exist. And project finance always exists. I didn't create them. But the matching of them in a system was my creation. And this was the point. Why? Because I understood, I have the capacity to look and understood, this is what exists on project finance. Why is everything the same? And why is everything problematic to the project promoters? And I understood that the reason was not the product, but what was behind the product. From where came the money of the bank? I only need to switch that and bring in from other place to allow to have a different result. And was in that point, of course, that with the unique algorithm of trading that first it was innovation, a technology and financial innovation. But in the end of the day, the use of that innovation was mixing three existing points, and of course was too risky, because I remember, of course, I think that all the mothers are in this way, and I remember my mother to tell, why are you doing it? You were the best student of the story of university. Why? After you have the notes that you have, are you exposing to such suffering moments? This is why you study. You don't need them. You can have a calm life, And I remember to tell, but you are wrong, You are right, I understand that standard, but this doesn't need to be the correct or the good thing, right? Or the good life. And was that motivation, that, appetite for risk, that capacity to tell, I'm available to take this risk to myself, that allow me to enter in this journey and to try to implement it to such unique system of finance, And when I bring it to the market, this was clearly the reason that I was capable to look to something so complex, and tell, I will do project finance, not through raising capital in the market, but to financial trading. And this was clearly that capacity to accept that risk and accept that I will lose for that allowed me to do this innovation, because a lot of times it was easier to give up. But I have the capacity even in that moment to accept and to try one more time.
So, what's your definition of success?
If you need to tell one word, clearly I will tell you work. Success is work. Success is work. You don't have success without work, or I never see it. And mine is, I normally tell 99% of my success is work. A lot of people go, oh, so intelligent, what is it? No, it's work, 99% is work. But of course, I would like to tell persistence, dedication, discipline, acceptance of flaws, failures, rejection, sacrifice, nights without sleeping. This is the perfect definition of success.
So, what's the role of luck, smart work, and hard work in success?
90% is clearly the hard work. Of course, you need to have lucky. You need to have moments of lucky. And I have them. I have moments that I can clearly tell that I was lucky. Because like I told you, even when I lost, I was lucky. Because, sometimes I lose. And after, I look to that and I go, if I didn't have that problem, I was not here. Because I will go in other road. It's so in that moment that you want to cry and tell, why me? Why is this happening? And after you understand, thank God that this happened, because if this didn't happen, was not under my fault. This is lucky, right? Because you don't control. And I was lucky because of that. On the other side, clearly I can tell you that this means 7%, 90% hard work, lucky 7%, and let's tell that the smart side needs to be 3%. But you need sometimes that innovation and creative moment. But I think that is, of course, necessary, but less. On the receipt for making is the smallest part. Is the smallest part.
So, what are your roles and responsibility as president, founder, member, and CEO at Ethos Asset Management?
Rules that change every day, right? And change until today. Because first of all, Ethos was a creation from the zero. I started in a room, seated with a computer in my legs. That means that for a company that is today, everything was created by my hands. And in the end of the day, we have major three areas, like I told you, the trading area, where I'm clearing every day. It's running by algorithm or by my traders. But every time when you have crisis in the market, I enter and I try to, take the decisions if something is necessary to change on the rules that is programmed for the month, for the year in terms of trading. On the credit risk side, I try always to be on top to know, okay, what projects are entering, numbers, what is in fact being approved, what is being looked at, why is this happening, to understand if the process is always correct or not. I try to be always at least following that process to understand the big numbers, companies that submit projects, how many we pre-approve, and try to understand what is going on to don't be in this one. And of course, every time that is necessary, massive changes on the system, I try to be part of that. On the legal and compliance side, of course, try to guarantee always that every day nobody forget that we have rules that needs to be strict forward because they are the basis of our model. And if we don't do it, of course, that in the end, we will have a problem in 12 years. And I try always to put all the people involved aware of that. And of course, like any CEO, I have the first obligation to try to handle the problem situations when we have problems in strategic problems or decisions to take, countries to move. This is my major obligation is every country that we open, I'm the first to go. I'm the first to be in the market and open by my end 6 months there, 3 months there. And only after made it and the structure be created, I put the team and I like to be always telling to be the first in the factory to do the first time, and after of course pass it and be a leader, not by screaming but by example. And in the end is that management and that strategic decisions of course needs to be always on my daily basis. Normally before finance any project, always I like to know the client, who is doing the company. Of course, you cannot talk about that the project is only the person. Of course, it's the business too. But 99% I always like to tell that it doesn't matter if the project is good. It's much more important if the person behind the project is good. And because of that, I will oblige me always to know where I'm putting the money and with who I'm putting the money. And this is, of course, to be critical, do always that meeting. And of course, allow the person that is receiving the money, the project promoter knows who is in this side, who is Ethos, who is Carlos, and how we operate. I always like that they understand, because if both of sides know each other, it's much easier maximize our performance, our capacity to generate revenue for both sides.
So what are the product and services does Ethos Asset Management provides?
What Ethos do is we go to the market and we analyze projects, and that projects, companies that develop ports, airports, energy projects, any company that have an operational transaction, we can finance them. And this is what we do. We do project finance. This is the product that we offer to the market. Of course, we change across the year, because when we start in 2012, we started with a goal that was doing trading. We were leasing our algorithm of trading. This was why we born and how we start. Doing project finance only by a logic of diversification. But we were doing and offering to the market this technology to plug into their brokerage accounts and trade on their brokerage accounts. This was what we started to do. Later on, these companies put the money with us and we were trading on their APIs. That moment, we were not only doing project finance, but doing financial trading on behalf of third parties. When in 2018, we stopped with all of the activities and we start only to do project finance. And between 2018 and now, we do trading, but this is only for us. We don't offer this to the market. We do it with our own funds. This means that we don't read the algorithm, we don't trade in funds of third parties. Nowadays, we trade our own funds and we use 20% of that to project finance. What we give to the market is project finance.
So what all type of project does your company finance, and what is the minimum and maximum amount?
At this moment, we have two major lines, $4 million at 49, that we tell small line. And we have a big line that is bigger than 50 million, but we don't put a clear maximum amount. In terms of sectors, I like to tell that we don't do mergers and acquisitions. We don't do nothing related with the defense sector. We don't do this new area of drugs that we can transform in medicines and operate on this sector that some countries is legal. We don't touch on that. But in the end of the day, we do every project that can be operational under project finance. Of course, that when you look to that reality, some sectors are on the top. Too clearly, that is infrastructure and development of countries, energy and natural resources. At the same time, two other sectors are pretty relevant, agribusiness and technology. Not this era of seed funding and venture capital, but on the project finance logic, we have appetite for that. But any project that can fit our model, we will have appetite to fund.
So, what are bad and good business practices according to you?
When you tell, what is good and what is bad, right? What is correct and what is incorrect? This is subject, right? Because the correctness and incorrectness is very subject. I like always to tell that the correct and incorrect is the respect and the disrespect, right? And what is respect to me, and always what I look in respect is, to me, the respect for the others is I never want to cross the line that I don't want that the others cross to my side. What is respect to me is what I consider respect to the other. Even being a little subjective, right? Of course, that, to me, the good practice in business is always work with your character, with your values, maintain what guides you in your life, you need to guide in your business. And never disrespecting the others, always giving value for each individual and understanding that every institution needs any individual. Every part of the institution is critical for the result of the parts. And it's that conscientization of the respect for the others and the respect for all the stakeholders and not shareholders only that are critical in your business and daily basis.
So, if somebody want to get finance his project from your company, so what's the procedure he should follow?
Ethos is on the market. We don't have a commercial front office with branches, right? The way that we do it, we have worldwide 139 associates. Associates are mainly law firms or management consulting companies that they have the legal mandate to structure and present this project to us. They are worldwide, right, on the 72 countries where we are, and they will always help to present us and structure the files, the submissions, the application forms, fill them. We have, of course, the procedures that is split in 3 phases. A phase A of credit risk, that you need to present your project, your financial capacity, and with that showed, and you go to credit risk analysis, where you are analyzing like any normal bank do, right? Credit risk, countries, sectors, geography, macroeconomic, political, all of that realities. With that approved, we pass for a second phase that they need to fill, the legal and compliance. Normal forms about know your customer, beneficiaries, source of funds, meeting of the board. All of that is signed, presented, and go to compliance where you do ALM tests, beneficiaries, directors, source of funds. With all of that checked, we go to the final contract. We sign, they put in place the guarantees, and they start to finance. It's a smooth process that can be fast.
So, any particular reason to choose financial sector as your career?
I think all of us are product from the place that we born, right, and where we grow. And of course, I born in a family of a CPA and a businessman. That of course, the chances that I go in something like that was bigger. But I'm always like, even because I have a sister and she's neuroscientist, that means totally different area. But the reality is that, I think that it was a little that contest where I born, and of course the motivation and the pleasure to be here when I was young and the kid, the conversation make me follow that page.
So, what does award means to you, and which was your first award you have received professionally?
Like I was telling you, every award are important. It's like always I tell, to me, when I have a chance to receive an award, it's like when a football player makes score, right? Or when a cricket player score, or when a basketball player score. It's the materialization of the sources of your work, right? It's the recognition of that. Of course, I don't live for that. I don't wake up thinking on that, but it's always a pleasure when you receive them. And with that said, I can clearly tell you that it's always a pleasure to me to receive them. And it's always a pleasure because I feel that I'm only not representing myself, but all the structure that I have behind me. And I think that all the people feel that pleasure of that I'm receiving it, and they feel that it's part of them social too. And this to me is very important. Like I was telling you, of course, that when in 2015 I received the award of best economist in Portugal, or in 17 the Ernst Young Award. They were major prizes, right? But in fact, like I told you, the most relevant, I think, that was my first in academic on the first year, because was the moment that I feel I can do it. I can make for myself. And because of that, I save that moment in my memory forever, because I think that was critical. It was, of course, an academic and not a professional like that I told, but it was pretty important to me.
So, what are the main challenges you face while finalizing any project to finance?
The process is a long process, right? And it's very complex. The best part that I always see is, or the most complex part is in the end when we are finalizing, we have always the difficult part, that is put in place the guarantee, put in place the guarantee. Because this is normally between banks, and normally worldwide banks, that make you involve cross-border laws, involve different cultures, time zones, different approach in banking. Some regions, and our sector is very unique in terms of knowledge, right? Knowledge, also professional knowledge of what is in fact what we are talking about. When you look to, okay, banking in Swaziland, or banking in Zimbabwe, or banking in Tanzania, or banking in Brazil, is different from talking to banking in USA, or in Turkey, or in Hong Kong. And when you match and put banks like that working together to put in place the guarantees, is pretty complex. Even to have the capacity to guide your client in that country that needs to do in a way. Even more because, the financial guarantees are a very, very specific market that normally in banking, 99% of the banks will know nothing about it. And inside of the 1%, they have the obligation to know, but they are not fully knowledge. In that case, it's very challenging, because it's not only made a complex structure, but teach a complex structure to the market. I think that this is probably the most complex part to myself, and of course to guarantee the success of that.
Any particular incidents or story you would like to share from your professional life?
I could tell thousands of them, good, bad, happy, less happy, less the pressure, more the pressure. But, I think that, like I told you, I was never talking about this period of my life that I lost everything. This year in the interview that I gave was the first moment that I feel capable to talk about it openly and in the public. But even because the subject of this show, right, is a mentor. I think that it's very important to focus on the bad moments, because I think when we look at the success of people, we always think how beauty is their life, right, and wonderful and nice, and the success is amazing, and the peer is even better, right, and it's nice cars, nice houses, nice clothes, but nobody remember that to be there, you have a massive accomplished achievement and problems achieved. And when you are faced, and a lot of people give up because they think it's impossible to achieve what the other achieved, because I will pass these problems. And the most relevant point that I would like to highlight to everybody is never believe that it's possible to achieve success without a problem. And never give up when you face the problems, because face that problems are critical on the achievement of the success. I can't hold by myself. I would not be nothing in my life if I didn't fail. And that failures are critical even to learn that failure is important. And of course, the knowledge that this brings to me was that knowledge, because I did mistakes, and that mistakes allow me to today don't do that. For example, I lost a lot of money because I was being scammed. People was cheating me, lying me, and make me invest on the wrong places, cheating me and take me money. And today, when I see situations like that, I don't lose even 1 second to identify them, because I lost 74 times in this way. This is a massive advantage, because sometimes my instructor come to me and tell, what do you think about this client? And in 2 seconds I told, no touch on that. I just saw that standard behavior. Or I just saw that person. Don't take it. And this is critical. And this is exactly because of that these moments of losing, they are critical. Any of them, all of them.
So, what are do's and don'ts you would suggest while creating a pitch deck?
It's very important when you want to present your project, touching three major points: who you are, where you are, and where you want to go. This is critical, right? And always, of course, that all the business and all the projects, they have problems and they have weakness. But it is the capacity to explain that weakness, not identifying you need to, but identifying to show how big is the opportunity that you have, and transforming that weakness into something stronger. Is that capacity in the pitch deck that are critical, And if you do it, it's that. And of course, the goals needs to be very clear, because without goals, you don't exist, right?
So, as per your opinion, how should we judge any project to finance?
You have multiple things, I cannot be hypocrite and tell, we look and it's not simple. We have a credit risk process that needs to be fulfilled, or they have collateral or they don't have, or they fulfill our requirements in terms of ratios, in terms of sectors, in terms of geographies, or we don't touch it, right? But, and this is the model, of course, in compliance, this is a narco-trafficking person, we will not finance. If it's a murder, we cannot finance. If it's someone that we cannot be legally related, we will not be related, right? And this is what it is. I cannot tell, I don't have a science for that. It's a process, right? And it is fulfilled. But, I always like to tell, of course, giving too much focus, but I always tell that 99% of the decision is a decision of who is behind the business. Not what business, but who is behind. Why? Because, I saw thousands of projects. When I looked at them, I thought, normal projects, and they were associates. And I saw wonderful projects that in the end, they were not associates. And the reason for the normal projects to be wonderful, and the reason for the wonderful projects to be bad, was always the same: who is behind. And because of that, to me, this is one of the critical parts. Who is my counterpart? The person, the individuals, the employees, the shareholders, the directors. It's critical.
So, what advice would you like to give to young generation who want to start their journey in financial sector?
The first recommendation is education. I think that is critical. Try to have as much as possible diversify education. Not only on management, because they need management, not only on finance, but in accounting, in, of course, economics, in macroeconomics, in microeconomics, in sociology, in history, because all of that make the financial market. And if you don't have all of that, you are not capable. And this is, of course, the university is today a must. They need to do that stuff. They need to pass that. After that, a lot of students sometimes ask me, what is it that we learn in university that we will need to the future? I normally tell 1% of what I teach you on a daily basis is used. 99% of you develop will be used. And this 99 is the capacity to face problems, to pass them. Of course, I love to go to the market and see that what I learned in university was critical and make me feel that I have a full knowledge. But a lot of things I didn't have knowledge, and I need to pursue and have capacity to face it. And this is what the university brings to you. Bring that knowledge of passing the problems and face them. This is what I recommend. That is, as much as possible, a full education that exposes you to as much as possible challenge.
So now we'll start our rapid round.
Right. Let's do it.
So your favorite actor and actress?
I have a couple of them that I like, But I think, Clint Eastwood is one of my favorites, even like a producer, probably it is him.
Your favorite project you have financed till date?
This is quite unfair, I cannot tell one because I will be unfair with others, but, and to tell the truth, I like all of them. This is true, I admire any of them, until today we financed 79 projects, worldwide, in 72 countries. When I look to each of them, I feel appreciation for all of them. Doesn't matter the sector. First, because they have the capacity to believe in me and to want to partner with me. And I'm really grateful for that. at the same time, because I know how it's difficult to be entrepreneur, and I can understand in any of their business how difficult it is to survive in their context, in emergency markets, in complex markets, in difficult moments like COVID now. And I admire any of them, in a very truly way, without being hypocrite. I admire any of them, even on their differences, and I like every of the projects. And even if we like to talk, I will need to talk about all of them, to be fair.
Your favorite color?
Clearly blue. Clearly blue.
Your favorite destination?
Depends for what proposed, right? I mean, I can tell that two of my favorite cities in the world are Istanbul and Rome. If I didn't born in Portugal, I clearly could born in both of them. I love them, inclusively. Now we have this year created a subsidiary in Turkey. And this is quite related with this admiration that I have for the place and for the beauty and for the culture. I love culture and story. And of course, we are talking about the place with 8,000 years of story, right? If you talk about places of for more calm, I love some parts of Africa, how they are pure and virgin, right? Of course, Brazil for the past relationship with Portugal has wonderful places that you can, of course, enjoy too. But yeah, clearly Istanbul and Rome are on the top of my favorite places.
Your favorite country to do business with?
All the countries have difficult things, right? I mean, it's like I think that you have cultures that are very difficult to convince. They don't like you in the beginning, and they are a little racist. It's like I can tell. One place that is very interesting, and the people don't feel it. USA is, of course, example of capitalism that the business grow, right? But I can tell that it's very difficult to work because the truly Americans, they don't like people from abroad. And I tell this in an open way. I have, of course, an American group. I have a house there, I live there, and I can tell this openly, and they know that it's true. All the emergency markets are complex. I think that the most complex, without respecting them, is Brazil. Probably a little by my fault because I'm Portuguese, and like very well, on the period of colonization, probably was we only bring the bad part for there. And I think that is always, is a country that when they are good, they are very good. But unfortunately, you have a significant amount of people that are difficult to handle. I would tell Brazil. I will tell Brazil. And I tell them not remember that Africa is our main market. We have a massive presence market. This means something. This means something.
Your favorite brand?
I cannot be hypocrite, and we live in a world of brands, right? Clothes brands, food brands, everything as a brand. But I would not like to highlight the brand. If I talk about brand, I will tell Ethos, right? It's my obligation. Clearly, this is my favorite brand. But yeah, I think that is not. Is Ethos probably?
Things in your wish list?
I have a couple of them. I have a very simple wish, that is a basic and personal wish. That is, I always run from one side for another, and normally I try to travel in the weekends to try to don't lose the time that can be more useful. And I always admire when I pass close to a river and I can see someone sitting in a coffee reading a book and admiring the river. I would love to do it. This is a personal wish that I have that I never did because I don't have time, but I always did admire it. But a very personal wish, is I would like to one day look behind and tell, I have the capacity to make story and to change the world for something more fair, fair in opportunities, that I can create structures, educational structures, infrastructure structures that allow the world to grow and the economies to develop. And of course, that to me, this is probably one of my biggest wishes, create a fairness economy, a fair place to each individual be part of that. I think that, Ethos can do it, not with what we finance, but with the way that we finance. We can change that mentality in some places. And I have the pleasure to tell that sometimes I feel that we are doing it, and I feel that in some places that we did it. And this is my biggest wishes.
Your dream house?
I think that the dream house is the place that I can feel that I pertain to that place, and that I feel that is my house, that internal feeling. more than the house in first year. It's that feeling that house can bring to you, that you feel in house. This is, I think, my dream house.
So what would be your second choice of career if not financial sector?
I mean, this is another difficult question because I could tell 10 other jobs, right? But sometimes I tell joking to people that I could be a tourist guide because I love story and I love to tell people the story of the place. Even because I travel so much, I start to learn a lot about places and I like to pass the ball. In some point, I think that this could be my second. But when I entered economics, I thought in the possibility to be a lawyer. I think that was a possibility. I think that if I was not this lawyer, I would be a lawyer.
So at last, one line that defines you.
Work, resilience, and patience for everything that I do.
Thank you very much for your time, and it was pleasure talking to you and listening to the advices on the financial sector that you have shared on our show. Thank you very much.
No, thank you too. It was a massive pleasure. Thank you for the time that you take, and all of you for hear my story. And I hope that every of you can achieve your dreams, because with work everything is possible.
Of course. Thank you very much.